What's up, Nubians? Welcome to techn00bians, part of the Geekish Network. This is your weekly deep dive into video games steeped in the Blackest Blacks. For those of you who don't know, techn00bians is a live streaming podcast hosted by technology professionals, Black technology professionals, where we discuss the what, when, how, and how you can get into this world of technology, specifically video games. I'm your host, Cherie, and with me today, I've got our man with a million plans, Chuck.
What's up, everyone? Woohoo! It's Saturday. Y'all ready? Y'all ready for it?
I'm ready. No, I think we're all hyped now, man. I got our producer, Sluther, and deducer, Shanae.
I don't even know how to, I can't one up that. I mean, all the energy right at the start of the show.
Let's bring in the energy. Yes, bring the energy. And then, of course, I've got Travis. What does Travis do? What are you drinking today, Travis?
What up? Water.
Looks like an empty boba tea.
Hydrate.
You got to hydrate.
He says water. Is what the kids calling it this day?
It's called self-care.
Drinking that water. Drinking that water.
Agua. H2O.
H2O. So, folks, you know, we are here every week to inspire, sustain, and nurture successful creative technologists in the pursuit of Black excellence in content development. I made it through the intro. Okay. So, all right, folks, you know that we like to do news and then we do a long topic. This week, we are talking about from indie to trendy. Let's talk about AAA gaming.
Ooh.
So this is gonna be a fun, this will be a fun topic. I love indie games, so this will be a fun topic here. But before we get into that, let us talk tech and gaming news with our news segment, Technewsians. All right, let's kick this off, Travis. Travis, you have a topic you want to tell us a little bit about happened this week, right?
Well, you know, what's
I'm the only one who's excited about this, by the way. I'm the only one excited about this story.
What's a Mac event without, some disappointments and, some castigations and,
what?
Yeah.
Disappointed? Are you sure? Disappointed at the Apple event?
Well, first of all,
does that happen?
Be cool. All right.
Who gets disappointed at the Apple event?
Someone's always unhappy about something.
Okay.
What is the story?
They make the best things ever at every event, Travis. The best things ever.
Wait, let's hear what the story is, because I don't even know what the story is.
All right. First, we're gonna take them a little bit by bit here, but I'm gonna try to sum up fast. Like a new color iPhone Pro. Do you really care? Everybody uses covers, right? I have a gold one, but I haven't even seen it since I took it out the box. Why do we even care? Okay, so there's that. Okay. Then there's a new iPod Air with an M1 processor in it, which is basically like swatting a fly with an atomic bomb. It's like, what are you doing? What do you do? Okay,
I'm doing my music career.
Makes the music more music.
My garage band, making my album.
And here is
triple platinum.
And then they released the phone that literally one person I know wants.
Yes, that's me.
I also know one person. Does that make two, or do we know the same person?
Yeah, like an iPhone, like an iPhone that still has, the SE that has a thumbprint.
Can we call this the CE? Can we change the name? We need to change the name. It's not SE. It's not special anymore. It's really classic. Not. It should be called CE, Classic Edition. Be
classic. Actually,
Classic Edition.
I would like that brand.
What's wrong with them?
I know, special edition. What's so special about it? It's the old phone with a new chip in it.
Okay. Now then they have the studio display that they released, which is their new dope monitor, right? But then you got like additions onto the monitor so it can transform and roll out. Like, just make a monitor. Just come on.
No, they have to let upsell you on the arm.
Don't invent a reason for me to give you a couple more $100. I mean, just go ahead and just put the normal.
Travis, you're gonna buy it though, right?
No.
You're not gonna buy that monitor?
No, I gotta invent. No,
you need to give it the nano glass, the nano texture.
My desktop is. I have a desktop PC. Thank you very much.
Oh, okay.
Well, I would like.
It's not a Mac PC though.
I am the person who y'all have referred to who is excited about getting my iPhone SE.
It's just one person.
Haters to the left. I do not care. I want to be able to run. I want to be able to have my Touch ID and be able to actually upgrade to iOS 15. So,
Travis.
I've been slumming it on
This
iOS
phone's for
14.
you, Cherie. This phone is for you.
It's for
And
me.
Travis, you forgot the biggest
and
update.
I even like the color. I even like the color.
And then Mac Studio.
Yes.
Okay. Now the last thing was the Mac Studio, which is, I don't know if it's a grown ass Mac Mini or a little ass Mac Pro. I'm not exactly sure which one it is. Okay. But whatever it is, it costs about $4,000.
Oh no.
Entry level.
Oh, that's the entry level.
Entry level to the Apple ecosystem.
I'm trying not to give people sticker shock, okay? But yeah.
I mean,
so
it's Apple, so
if I didn't have like a really high powered PC, maybe I would consider it, just because I'm tired of computers being that big. Like, I really am. And there's something just really sexy about having a hockey puck like CPU, and that's it.
Y'all don't know, by the way, that when Travis was born, computers were the size of this entire room. So the bigness of computers is a real problem in his lifetime.
When Travis was born, wasn't he like a teenager?
When Travis was 150.
Wasn't like a teenager at that time?
I'm part elf.
It's like ENIAC? Anyway.
So this is what I did, you guys. I'll tell you what I did after they made the announcement. They posted up on their page. I built my dream PC. The Mac Studio that I want is $7,999. It's 8K, right?
Plus
and
tax.
the problem, let me talk about the problem with the Mac Studio computer. It's still horrible at 3D rendering. So I can't really use Unreal Engine on it the way I want to use Unreal. Yeah, Travis.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Are you sure it's not a PebCAC error? I think that's what Travis is saying. He's like,
that's the biggest. I've watched a million videos of visual effects artists saying, when is Mac going to make us a computer? It's not great at 3D rendering. It's good for film editing and music editing. And
I'm gonna have to do some research on that.
Go do some research on it. Yeah. We had a whole discussion about it yesterday on Geek Bees. And Trey was like, it doesn't matter. The people that want it still want it.
Well,
here's the thing, by the way, and I'm gonna make a comparison that Travis is gonna probably hate. But to me, I'm like, this is why I always compare Apple to Nintendo, because we tell them, we're like, here's what I want, and they will always come out and be like, you don't want that. Here's this other thing. You're gonna buy it.
When Steve was alive, they used to do that though. When Steve was alive.
Yeah. So I'm just like, that's my comparison for it. It's just like Apple always will give you some other little thing that you did not ask for, and they know you're gonna buy it.
Yeah.
Let's be clear, okay?
And that's what it is.
I have an Apple laptop because I like my video crisp and clean with nothing in between that's going to get in between me and my audio visual, sort of experience or whatnot. I am, I buy my laptops for convenience in that. Other than that, I still stick with my PC. So I'm not an Apple head, but I do appreciate the convenience.
Yeah,
I am an Apple head, and I will be buying this machine, and I may buy the monitor for an additional $2,300.
Good Lord, y'all.
Because I need the nano texture screen. I don't even know what that means.
So now you know who to point to.
Church of Apple right there.
Well, wow. I used to work for Apple, so yeah. Before it was popular.
I used to work at Microsoft, and that's when I bought my first MacBook. So
that's different. That was a horrible company. Apple's always been a righteous.
I'm not endorsing that statement. Anyone not being endorsed.
Well, this seems as good a time as any to slip on to our next topic. Shanae, I think you've got a story for us.
I do have a story. So have you guys heard about this game? It's pretty popular. It's called like Eldrin. There's like a ring, something involved. Elden Ring.
Elves and Ring.
Elden Ring. Yeah, Elves and Ring.
I bet if you punched yourself in the face, you could pronounce it better.
So Elden Ring, if you guys missed it somehow, this game came out like about a week and a half ago, and just like it's been everywhere. It's in all of my every single like online targeted advertisement basically targets Elden Ring at me, and I already own it. So I picked it up, and there's been a lot of discussion going on the interwebs around everything that is Elden Ring. I caution anyone who wants to wade into it, but hey, here we go. There's an interesting discussion that was going on the other day that was talking about the Elden Ring combat tutorial. So I don't know if you guys have played it, but you get teleported into the first area. To your left is a staircase with a door. It's very brightly lit. To your right is a pit. It's very darkly lit. And there's a guy in a chair that's sitting over there like this, like looking very suspect. And which one would you choose? Questions for the group. Where would you go? The lit door, the dark pit?
The door.
The door. Because you probably would think you can go to the door and then come back and then maybe go to the dark pit.
Yeah.
Guess where you're supposed to go?
To the dark pit.
The dark pit.
Of course, because the game's depressing, and that's why.
It's the dark pit. The dark pit is actually the combat tutorial, and a non-insignificant number of players missed the combat tutorial completely.
Absolutely.
Because they went to the lit door. And if anyone hasn't heard about Elden Ring and the Souls games in general, they're kind of hard. And if this is your first entry into it, it would be nice to have a tutorial. Discuss. There's been a lot of people pushing back on saying like whether or not this is a good decision or not.
No, they did it on purpose. They're like, go to the pit because that's where you're gonna be at for the rest of this game. For the 87 hours it takes to beat this game. Get used to this misery.
I want to say that is like A+ world-class trolling there.
It is.
Seriously. Obviously you think you walk through a door, you're like, you get the sense I can go into a door and come back. If you jump into a pit, you don't get the sense that you can come back.
That feels like that's a one, like as Amazon used to say, it's a one-way door. You're jumping into
I think that sounds about right for From Software. I think that sounds
but you know
about
what?
right.
It goes back to that Maya Angelou quote, like when people show you who they are, believe them.
But here's the thing. Actually,
there's a pit. That's who we are. Believe us.
So we're gonna put a pit in your soul.
That's some of the friction for this too, because Souls games are notorious for sometimes luring the player into places where you're gonna get murdered. So people who've played the Souls games before saw that dude sitting over there saying the cave of knowledge lies below. Didn't mean anything to them. They just saw a dark pit at the beginning of the game and said, yeah, fool me once, fool me twice, Souls game. So they went towards the door and they missed the combat tutorial.
And you know what? And so instead, the experienced people got to get their comeuppance much faster. Because
everyone basically got trolled.
You were there for, right? That's what you were there for.
The first Soul game ever, the first 5 seconds, they kill you in it. You're like, I'm going to handle this battle. I'm going to handle it. Nah, you're going to die. Yep. You're like, I died. And they're like, oh, that's part of the game. You're supposed to die a lot.
Yeah. And this game is easier comparatively to other Souls games, as I've been told. Yes. But it's still really freaking hard. And a combat tutorial is still non-optional or it should be non-optional for new players.
Can we just call it what it is? Because that's just bad game design.
Wait. I think this is important. I think this is an important question to ask your sister here for a second. Okay, did you or did you not beat Returnal?
That's what I was going to ask.
No.
Okay, but you got really far though, right?
I did, yes.
Okay, and you said Elden Ring is hard, right?
Oh yeah, and that's why I can say it.
Thank you for your service.
That's why I can say it's hard.
Yeah, I was going to ask that question too, Travis. I said you bought Returnal. You just like games for punishment, don't you?
Well, actually, Returnal is the first like truly like Souls level difficulty game that I've played in a while. Like I usually don't deal with those.
This Souls game, everybody's like, this game is easier. No, it's not. Well, but this game does.
It can be easier, but not be easy. Like those are like adjective versus like adverb.
It's not easier because this game says go anywhere you want to go. We're not going to tell you anything.
No, less depth.
And the dialogue tree is important in this game. The dialogue is important in this game. Go anywhere you want to go. So now you think about getting your butt kicked the whole entire time. You got to think about what people are saying to you the entire time to unlock things that are helpful.
It's funny. It's funny. I remember actually being in a focus group and this player said something that was pretty profound, which was, he said, I was wandering around and when I got my butt kicked, I didn't know whether or not I got my butt kicked because I was there too early.
Yeah.
you know, or I wasn't supposed to be there at all. And that's a really, I can't endorse that. You know, I just can't. Like, you know, at the end of the day, yes, you're trying to, you know, depict a, you know, whatever setting you're trying to, you know, but when people are confused, is that really good game design?
Yeah.
And, you know, and I will push back on people who say that it is, because walking around confused is just not a good look.
You'll be pushing back on like 97% of Twitter right now.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, of Souls fan Twitter. Sorry, go ahead, Sheree.
Yeah, Souls fan Twitter. Yeah, I mean that's what my point is it for, you know, because like, okay, like you can punish players and stuff like that. There's certain types of games like that, sure, right? And I know there's games where you die a lot. Like I played Celeste, which I love that game. You die so many times. There's like a death counter. It's like, oh, you died 1,000 times on this board. Trying to get through this or whatever. So I'm not against like hard games or anything like that. But when you've got a design decision where like half the players, you got a 50-50 chance of players missing a critical element. That element should be critical path.
It's worth noting too, by the way. Oh, like in that regard, go ahead.
It should be critical path. It should be you walk up to the door and you try and go through the door and it won't let you go through the door. Or like the guy who's sitting there, he could just be like, no, come over here. And like just keep saying that over and over again until you jump into the pit. Like there's no reason for them to put this like logic puzzle, not even a logic puzzle, right at the beginning of the game. That's just
so the thing that's interesting about this is because you know it was actually absolutely a deliberate decision. So when they ran the network test before the game came out, they ran a network test. It's basically like an open beta, people who play the game. The guy in the chair wasn't there. It was just a pit and a door. And they noticed during the network test that so many people were missing the pit completely. They decided the solution was to put the guy in the chair there. So they looked at lots of different solutions. This is the one they came up with. Like I said, it was a deliberate decision.
Can I just mention pick failed? Failed. That did not fix the problem. Sorry, go ahead, Travis.
I say all these things about this game, but at the end of the day, okay, I think it's about truth in advertising, right? And so if you buy a From Software product, by now you should know what you're getting. You know what I'm saying? It's sort of like buying GTA and thinking it's Mario Kart at this point, right? So those people who are buying this product, I think they're getting exactly what they want. And I applaud them for actually providing that service, but it's just like Pikmin. No, thank you.
So what? Okay, so the one thing I will say on this too, right? Because I think it's like there's been so much dialogue going on Twitter, and then like I said, people don't mention Elden Ring on Twitter if you don't want to just get flooded and not have a good time or have a worse time, an objectively worse time in that social media platform. I think the thing that this really sort of reveals is a couple things. I was mostly my concern about it was first of all, I think the tutorial should not be an optional thing that you can accidentally miss. I feel like that's a mistake. But the reason why people were missing it was because of their whole like lighting situation. Like it's a game design tenet that you light like you light the path, the direction you want players to go. People missed it. Partly because they didn't know about jumping in that hole, but also partly because the lighting did not lead them to a direction to know that was even an option there. So there's that side. But the other side is like one of the things I like about discussing these sorts of things is that, no game is perfect. Like even like I have so many games that I absolutely love. They are my favorite games of all time. And I will sit down with you and run through with you all the things they do wrong as well. So that's one of the things that's been challenging about talking about Elden Ring is there's very much like this sort of wall that's built up around it. It's like anyone who criticizes it immediately is like, well, you're just a garbage gamer and you're just like a fake this and a fake that. And it's like, whoa, calm down. It can be a fantastic game and still not be perfect. The God of War team actually said something that I steal for all of my developers and stuff when we're discussing like where do we put our sort of game development time and energy into, which is a few things 9 out of 10, nothing less than 7 out of 10. That means that even the God of War team knew their game wasn't going to be perfect because perfection is unachievable, especially given like schedules and budgets and all that kind of stuff too. So anyhow, Elden Ring, few things 9 out of 10. There are some 7 out of 10s, and that intro is one of them.
Well, to comment on that, Hidetaka Miyazaki, the game director, the creator behind Elden Ring and most of the Souls games, he says dying is a feature. And my goal is to make it enjoyable because you become a stronger, better person in death. If death is to be more than a mark of failure, is how do I give meaning to life?
So is he telling us that Elden Ring is actually a roguelike?
Basically, most of the games are like a roguelike. I remember playing Bloodborne. I just started, and I felt good. I finally killed like 20 enemies without dying. I'm like, okay, I'm feeling good. Literally, I turned the corner, and a sergeant class enemy came out and hit me, and I lost all my stuff. I had to go back there naked to go pick it back up, and he's there chilling. Like, yeah, I know you coming back for this. I know you coming back for this. And I was like, no, I'm not playing this game. This is too much. It took me an hour just to get to you. It's kind of like when you play Elden Ring being played, it's that ogre that's sitting on the bridge, and everybody's like, oh crap, there's an ogre. And he's staring dead at you with the sword, like, yeah, I'm here for you. Then he jumps down. And when you run close up to him, archers start shooting you.
I'll be honest,
wasn't enough.
I've had a lot more fun watching other people play Elden Ring than playing Elden Ring myself because of that kind of stuff.
I mentioned one thing and we'll move on to the next story. I wasn't even watching my sister play it. It was her and a friend. And I was just listening to it and I was laughing my butt off because she was getting murdered. He was getting killed. And it was hilarious to listen to. And I'm like, yeah, for that game, that game would drive me crazy. It would
drive me crazy if I wasn't playing with a friend.
Yeah, when I stopped having fun with the game, I stopped playing the game. So
who gives someone $70 for that experience?
Yeah, I said that's not me.
My cousin did it. He's like, yeah, go ahead, Shuri.
Yeah. No. You finish your thought, Chuck, and we'll move on to the next story.
I said my cousin pays $70 for the experience, and he's put over 10,000 hours into Grand Theft Auto 5, and he's like, I put 100 hours into Elden Ring already. I love this game. Well, I got to my 5th big boss. He said it took me 2 days to beat it. I love it. I said 2 days. He said, yeah, about 12 hours each day to figure out how to beat him.
Oh no.
I just want to know.
I'm good on that. I just want to
know where people are getting this time from. Do they have like a time machine or some sort of time folding device that allows you to pull 12 hours out of the day?
Sweet brown.
Yeah, that's what I want.
I have time for that.
If there's some sort of like time vortex that opens up when you boot up Elden Ring. Okay, maybe that's something I need to look into.
So we're gonna go on to our next story here. I know we could talk about Elden Ring probably for forever, but I'm gonna talk about some Travis's favorite topic, which is Nintendo.
Oh,
Nintendo has just like announced like their 2022 lineup for Switch, and it is beautiful. I mean, now I'm gonna just go ahead and like actually just like preface this. I know that Nintendo still has Breath of the Wild 2 on the
2023.
2022. But let's be honest, it's not coming out in 2022. That one's not coming out until 2023. Because just like Apple, Nintendo knows they're gonna give us whatever and we're gonna buy it whatever price it is and whenever it comes out. But not only they have that, they also announced a new Pokemon game. I think it's Scarlet, and I'm looking for the other one. But yeah, new Pokemon game. I know there were a lot of people who are not like real thrilled with like the most recent Pokemon release, but there's that. They're announcing Splatoon 3. There's also the follow-up to the Ubisoft version of Mario
Rabbids.
Yeah, Sparks of Hope is supposed to come out this year. Bayonetta 3, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet is what it is.
That all sounds wonderful.
Game, a new sports Switch game, Mario Strikers Battle League, Fire Emblem Warriors. Like, gosh, this is the other thing that kills me with Nintendo is they're like nothing, and then suddenly here's everything all in one quarter.
They did.
Nothing.
They did do it.
You can make your rent.
Wake up, Travis. I know you're trying to pretend to be asleep.
you know what's really going on? You know what's really going on, Cherie?
What?
They're gonna drop all these games this year because next year they're gonna come for a whole new console.
I know.
Because that's what Nintendo does.
I'll be honest.
You know what?
I know Nintendo's supposed to be like. I know supposedly like the Breath of the Wild 2 is going to come out on the Switch.
Yeah.
I know Nintendo, I know what they do is they say, oh, it's coming out on this platform. And then they release a new platform and they're like, we put it on both.
Yeah,
That's the best thing
Nintendo
about
has-
Nintendo heads is you guys are just such lemmings, and you're like, and the thing about it is, it's like you are so happy to be lemmings too. It's almost like it's crazy. It's crazy. It's like you can't wait to give Nintendo your ducats.
Did you know, by the way, that the whole myth about lemmings running off of a cliff actually was made up by wildlife filmers back in the 50s? That's not real. And by the way,
I'm taking it from the video game, though.
the video game was based on a faulty premise. But the thing that I think is interesting that Chuck mentioned is, I think Nintendo, if there was a new console coming out next year, Nintendo would have no shame whatsoever about being like, yeah, you know what? Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 is now going to be a launch title on that. Like, they would hold one of these things that they know is like their big titles, and they would put it as a launch platform, or launch title on that platform. So if this stuff actually does come out this year, for the items that do have launch dates, I actually think that's even a little bit bigger of a signifier to say like, maybe we're looking at 2024 for new hardware to start getting talked about from Nintendo.
Even if it was next year, y'all will still buy it.
I would. I absolutely would. You see this,
and I'm talking about the video game lemmings.
You see this. You see this room right here. This, of course, I would buy it.
Oh, you know,
buy 2 of them.
Sheree, I think that's a great story. I'm so excited for Bayonetta 3. Bayonetta,
Honestly,
maybe the best hack and slash game ever made.
Yeah.
And I can't wait for number 3 because Platinum's been out there with that Nintendo money for like 5 years cooking it up. They're like, oh, what do you mean we don't have a deadline? Nintendo's like, give it to us when it's ready. We're going to just throw the money at you.
Now, my Devil May Cry roots mean that I have to go in and say, like, actually, Bayonetta's not a hack. Actually, it's not a hack and slash. It's an action game.
Action game.
Action versus hack and slash. It's 2 different. There's distinctions between them. That said,
you're right. But it plays.
There's also
like
a fantastic hack and slash
game
on this list, though. That Fire Emblem's Warriors 3 Hopes.
Yeah.
That's definitely gonna be a hack and slash.
Is that hack and slash? Is that RPG?
I'm pretty sure.
Warriors.
Because they threw Warriors on it. I think it's gonna be a Dynasty Warriors reskin.
and Mario Strikers Battle League has me excited too. I love the Mario Striker games. They're fun.
I haven't gotten into those.
Get on this conversation, man. Come on, Travis. Come on. There's gotta be something you're excited for.
Yeah, I wish I could blue shell this whole segment.
Wow.
All that means is that we're in first.
Only until I get this blue shell.
Can I continue with some Nintendo news?
Yes.
Yeah, let's take
Because I know Travis loves Nintendo news.
Yes.
So this is something near and dear to my heart. I'm in the industry. The US is finally going to get their first Super Nintendo World in Hollywood Studios, Universal Studios Hollywood.
Right,
in 2023. So it's actually going to happen. And I'm excited about this. You get your little power-up band, pick your team, and go into the land and play games. You play Mario Brothers in real life. And I tell everybody, playing the Piranha Plant game is a lot of fun. And it changes your life when you hit your first question box.
No spoilers.
I'm not.
Because we're all gonna go as a team.
We're gonna make Travis go. He's gonna dress up as Mario. So we're gonna put Travis on the Toad team. He deserves to be on the Toad team.
I'm telling you right now. I am telling you right now. God help me.
I will be first in line.
If I find a blue shell in there, everybody's gonna. Everybody.
You're gonna love it, Travis. You're gonna love it.
But Travis, you know the blue shell only hits the person in first. Come on, man.
So
at least let's pretend
let you get in first so that I can hit you.
I'm already in
slipping
first.
over banana peels your whole entire time. Slipping over banana peels.
Sorry.
It's the reason why I use the blue shell, so you can hit the person first so that you can now become in first. So is that what you're trying to do, Travis? Or you're just like, you want to be the #1 Nintendo fan in here? I mean, I'm up for the challenge.
So. I think he does. I think, matter of fact, we're going to make sure you buy you a Switch and you go to the park and you play it in the park. We're going to take a picture of you playing the Nintendo console in the park.
I will happy birthday to the ground that Switch.
Wow.
A little red Mario hat.
Wow.
A little red Mario hat would be great.
Well, they have this.
A Wario hat would be better.
Matter of fact, we're gonna
Actually,
dress you up like Mario. In the
yeah, that's
overalls
pretty.
and the
That'd be
hat,
cool too. You gotta get
put
the mustache
gloves
little-
on.
Or a Bowser.
Yeah.
You can dress up as Bowser too.
Little-
We're okay with that.
Travis, don't you own a Switch?
I do not.
You do own a Switch, man.
I don't.
Did you pay for a Switch?
Is there a household?
There's
Is there a
some-
Switch in your
I
house?
pay for a lot of things that I don't own nor have.
There's a Switch in your household. Has there ever been a Switch in your household?
Travis,
Let me ask it like
You're
that.
not excited about going to Nintendo World with your
What?
Switch? You're not excited about going to Super Nintendo World with your Switch? You're not excited
No.
about that? Why aren't you not
No.
excited about that? You should be excited about that.
I will go to Super Nintendo World.
Uh-huh.
I am not holding the Switch under any circumstances during that time period.
Why
I
not?
hear that
What?
first part. Someone take a
Why
time.
would I?
Time
Show your
stamp.
loyalty to
Travis, so we can
Nintendo.
replay this.
1:31.
But I'm not
p.m.
loyal though.
March 12th,
You should be loyal
2022.
to Nintendo
Why?
because they're the greatest game creator in the world.
That's what our long topic's going to be about. So we can go ahead and just.
I'm choosing balance today, Travis. I'm choosing balance all day long.
Oh my God.
They've
Listen,
outlasted
here-
every company.
Here is the thing, too, about this new Super Mario World, regardless of what you think about Nintendo games, which, you know, just ignoring what you might think about Nintendo games. How can you not think Super Mario World is going to be rad? Like, that just sounds amazing.
I think
Just
Super
like,
Mario.
it is-
I think that Super Mario World, for its target audience, is probably the best thing since butter.
Basically.
And that's the guy.
So you're saying for everybody in the world,
Well,
this is
no,
the best
well,
thing since
honestly,
butter.
no, honestly, you know, like I said before, my issues with Nintendo are more about me being a professional game maker and dealing with Nintendo and
But the
so
great
and
thing
so
about
forth.
Super Mario World is you don't have
So
to
Mario
touch the
ain't
games
playing
over
with you.
there.
Mario
No, he
ain't
don't.
playing with you.
No, he's
Like, you know,
not.
yeah, Mario is not interested in them games.
No,
That's
he
what I'm
ain't.
saying.
He ain't interested in no gamers. Mario don't care about no
You see what I'm
gamers.
saying? And I appreciate, once again, I appreciate Nintendo's position within the industry. I think that they are the gateway console. They make gateway games. They make young gamers into lifelong gamers. And I have nothing but love and
And-
respect for that as far as Nintendo is concerned.
And
But this year,
sometimes
I will
lifelong
be-
cynics.
This year I will be 52 years old, and I don't have time for that.
I think it'd be 456.
Yeah.
Clarify, you know.
Like Travis mentioned, Nintendo makes gateway games and bridge game. Hopefully, this will be a gateway theme park that will lead Travis back to the love of Nintendo.
I
his
mean,
youth.
Travis, you don't want Elden's Ring so you can beat games like Zelda Breath of the Wild. They're similar games, but one is beatable and the other one is not.
Just as an aside, by the way, this is one of the reasons why I love games, because there's such a wide variety of games and gaming experiences out there. Right now, the games I'm playing are Elden Ring, Horizon Zero Dawn, the first one, not the new one, and It Takes Two, which are
What are you doing? Where are you finding this
farther
time?
I'm not playing them all
Who
at
are
the same
you?
time. I'm not playing them all at the same time.
I mean,
But
I'm playing 3 different games. It takes 2.
Who are you? I own all these games and not played. I only played Miles. I got a PS5 and played one game. On every game on the PS5, I played one.
See, you
One.
play one game and you play it till you finish it, right?
Yes.
Like, yeah,
Yeah.
I've got like 3-4 games going, and I'm like, I will be playing these 3 or 4 games for the next 6 months.
maybe I'll finish them, maybe I won't.
I've never finished Breath of the Wild because Elden Ring is 2 things I hate: open world games, because I need direction. Tell me where I need to go. Tell me I need to go to the pit. Tell me that. You know, and then I hate games I have to die over and over again to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's fair.
Elden Ring is a game I started
Elden Ring-
knowing that I will probably never finish it. Like I have friends
The
who
people-
finish and they're like, yeah. I'm like, how long did it take? Like 95 hours. I'm like, no,
Yep.
probably never gonna finish it.
Yeah.
Which is part of why I play a lot of indie games,
Mhm,
because they're much smaller in scope and they're much more likely to get finished
mhm.
And
than anything that's got a 40 hours plus finish time.
And actually, speaking of indie games, this is a good
Hmm.
segue into our long topic here, because we want to talk about indie games today. We want to talk about from indie to trendy. So, for folks who don't know, that game company just received a $160 million like cash infusion so they could scale their operations this past week. That game company is known for making Journey. And we want to talk a little bit about this, like talk about not just them, but talk about like just indie gaming and stuff like that in general. So maybe we start off here and just talk a little bit about what makes a game indie. What distinguishes a game, you know, indie from like, you know, classic kind of like non-indie or AAA games.
Scope, budget, wide variety of things. By the way, when you said that game company, I fought back a strong desire to say which game company, and then just get into sort of Abbott and Costello routine.
Yeah.
You know, back in the day, back in the day, 10, 15 years ago, and stuff like that too, we used to have this concept of, you know, there's AAA and there were AA games, which sort of, AA sort of has this sort of negative connotation to it, but it really means like a lot of times when we talk about like single A, AA, AAA, quad A, we're really talking about budgets, and budgets directly fit into project scope, playtime, complexity, staffing sizes, how many people are working on all those kinds of things, right? But like IPs, all that kind of stuff, right? And oftentimes how many stakeholders are involved in it. What has been redefined from AA is now it's been recategorized or labeled as III, because that sounds a little bit less pejorative than AA. And what III basically means, like, you know, there's I'd say in the last like 7 years or so, we started to see this sort of break between like of like what was considered like AA games and AAA games, and you start to see AAA games start getting much bigger. So you got like games that had budgets of like, you know, 60 to 100 million suddenly started like exploding, and they were going into the 150 million plus range, right? I call those quad A now because the budgets are so large. And at the same time, you started seeing a lot of folks move out of that AAA space to much smaller experiences where there was a lot more allowance for like creativity, and just getting away from like the sort of AAA video game development grind that exists. And the whole III space, the indie space, started to really grow and burgeon. And there's a lot of like indie games are huge now. like they are competing for mind share and entertainment dollars like nobody's business right now. And the whole idea of like III is it's sort of like an indie game, but indie game is sort of plussed up a little bit, right? So contrary to popular belief, like indie game doesn't mean that it's made by like two teenagers in a garage somewhere or something like that. Like indie games are made by folks who've got like decades of indie experience. Sometimes it really is talking about the scope and size of the project, like what the projections are, like those sorts of things is what we sort of mean when we say indie now. And III just sort of means like, oh, it's going to be like, you know, maybe it won't crash. there's probably like a major publisher behind it, right? Like your Raw Furies or your Annapurnas or something like that.
Yeah,
I'd be interested to see if, you know, indie from a scope standpoint perseveres. And the reason I say that is because, you know, I feel like there's so many companies now that are just middleware beast now, you know, Unreal, you know, you got Speedtree, Havoc, you've got all these different, you know, beefy middleware companies that you have to, you know, basically hack together, sometimes not so much hack together now because they play nicely together to build bigger games quickly and have a level of fidelity that when I started was just not even, you know, you couldn't even dream that big. And so what looks like an indie game now, I mean, you know, you go forward 5-6 years, I mean, it's going to be crazy, right? And so personally, I think that, you know, much like maybe the movies, indie basically means it's a shorter distance between the people who actually come up with the content or create the content to your actual end user. And I think that it's eventually probably going to get to that point, because just like movies, just like any other media, just like TV, there's a lot of people that contribute to that end product. And I think that when you cut out all the other middle people, indie means from the creator to you?
How I define it, in between both what both of you said. Independent, it's more like the music industry. Independent isn't just the artists themselves, the creators themselves push it out, and then there's publisher backed. I actually say that there's publisher backed and there's independent. AAA can be for independence and can be for publisher backed, depending on who you ask, right? If Megan Ellison from Annapurna likes you and she lets you release it outside of Annapurna Interactive, it's technically independent. So she can cut you because her dad gave her $2.6 billion for her company. She can actually slip you a $20 million check and say, go make your independent game. And when it blows up, we'll buy it back into Annapurna Pictures.
I think there's definitely something to be pulled from that side too. But like the thing I would I'd challenge with is there's so many indie publishers out there.
Yes,
there are tons of publishers whose entire business is the indie space. Like in the before times, we used to think of, oh, if you're a publisher, like you have to be like your game has to be of a certain size, a certain scope, a certain like intentional like audience and that kind of stuff. Like which means that you got a lot of cooks in that kitchen, a lot of eyes on that thing. And there's a reason why like people sort of get out of that AAA space. Like a lot of creators get out of that AAA space because you are going to have like, your creative vision is not your creative vision. It's going to be, it's going to be a lot of people who are involved in that from focus testing through marketing and PR through like the actual the actual content and all those. There's a lot of stuff that's involved in making something AAA that is for a more mass market audience. Whereas on the indie side, like what Travis was saying, there's a lot fewer people involved in that process, which means you might have your scope is probably gonna be a lot smaller, but there's a lot of creativity that's coming out of the indie space. Yeah, I often refer to like the indie space is where the soul of the game industry resides in my mind. Like that's where the creativity truly resides. And there's so many wonderful indie games that have come out there, and you're seeing a lot of publishers who are also noting that there's some opportunity there, because for a lot of indie developers, like here's one of the things that a lot of indies don't like, a lot of folks going to just make their own game don't know. It's really freaking hard and it's really freaking expensive. And even if you make an amazing game, okay, cool. Well, now you got to tell people about your game. Did you know that your marketing budget is probably going to be at least as much as your game development budget, if not more? If not more, right? And it's not even just having the money to do it. It's knowing the channels. It's getting the attention. It's knowing like how do you actually market your game? Because marketing is a skill. I thank God for people. It's used machine if you're in a mobile space, right?
That's what publishers offer you. We offer the machine. These machine services that you don't even understand, that you don't know operate. And now since digital's come in, this is what's so great about the music industry and watching it happen to games, is the music industry say, hey, we pay for your CD to get printed. We print it up. We get it into Best Buy. We put it on that end cap. We pay for that space. We pay for the eye level shelving. And that's why you get no money off your CD. You get $10 because it's a marketing tool for you to go on tour with. It's just advertisement for you. It's not your product.
It's such a critical part of development, though, right? Like, because one of the things that people do, sort of like there's definitely sort of like a couple of opinions that exist within the indie space, right? Where it's like there's folks who don't want to sign with a publisher because they feel like that's taking too much control for them. They're selling out. There's like that's just something that's not right, and it's not right for everybody. But there is, like you said, there's a lot of benefits that publishers bring to a space, and a lot of it is just expertise, know-how, and networking. Yes, and you can't underestimate what that takes, because making your game is only a small portion of having a successful product. And if you want to make a game if you want your indie game to be successful, I mean, there's such thing as making games just for yourself or just for a small audience, or just like you're not trying to go into commercial success. If you're looking for commercial success, this shit is a business. Sorry, this stuff is a business, and you really have to invest in that business. And it's best if you build that expertise, or you can rent that expertise by offering some of your back end.
And that's what Devolver and all these digital publishers offers. Like, you're renting us. You don't belong to us. We don't belong to you. You pay for our service. We get a little bit of kick on it. You get your kick on it. And we call it a even deal. They got the Master P deal, in other words. Like, you make your own product. You put it together, and we'll get it into Best Buy for you. And Best Buy is now online. And I think like studios like Supergiant, right? They broke the whole entire mode. They threw a game out there for a year and a half and said it was pre-beta we're working on it, getting all this buzz, getting people to play it. And then when it got perfect for them, they're like, oh, it's released now. We released it. Yeah, you've been playing it for a year and a half, but now we just now released it.
Yeah.
Then everybody's like, oh my God, this game's game of the year. They finally released it. I'm like, no, man, it's been online for a year and a half. I bought it day one for $10. You bought it for $20 when they said they released it.
But you know, I'm a fan of that.
Me too.
You know,
Me too.
I'm a fan. I'm a fan of that, and
Yeah.
the reason I'm a fan of that is because in this day and age, it's ridiculous for us to assume that the consumer, and provider relationship isn't fundamentally different, right? Number one. Number two, we need to recognize that, you know, as much as these are a work of art, these are also engineering feats, right?
Yep.
And when you're doing new things, whether or not it is design or whether or not it's from an engineering standpoint, sometimes things just don't work right out of the box the way that you would intend them to. And sometimes, you know, these beautiful mistakes are, you know, serve to be like the pillars of your gameplay that you didn't realize until, you know, you actually see them in motion, and you see them, you know, with hundreds of thousands of people using them every day, all the time. And so once we embrace that, you know, that journey, that exchange between, you know, the content providers and the people who consume it, it can be a beautiful thing. It really can, because you are truly doing fan service, but the best kind of fan service.
Yeah, I feel like there's so much creativity there within the indie space. It's like I've, you know, other than Nintendo games as my as my primary gaming, like the rest of my Switch is just filled with a bunch of indie games.
Yeah.
You know, and because I just love kind of seeing these new kind of experiences, you know, that maybe it's just more experimental, I guess, in many ways, right? And sometimes there are smaller experiences, which at this time of my life works more with my schedule, so I can actually finish those types of games. But I really enjoy that. You see a certain kind of creativity that and more more chances, I guess, taking more chances and stuff like that with regard in the indie space that you may see with AAA publishing. I'm sure there's a myriad of reasons for this, obviously, because there is sometimes if you're spending millions of dollars on game development, you want a sure thing that you're gonna be able to make your money back.
There's also something to be said for the sort of bite-sized gameplay experiences that indie games provide by giving us a window into game features that don't have to be fun for 25 hours. There are features that are this is fun. 4 hours. Oh, awesome. This game is only 4 hours. Yes. And that's actually, I like that a lot, right? It lets you
the compulsion loop is perfect.
A bit more.
Yeah.
It's like the difference between reading a collection of short stories versus reading
Stephen King novel,
Ice and Fire, whatever. Yeah, a 700-page 15 novel, series, right? And I think there's something that's really interesting and really unique about that. And I honestly, one of the other reasons I love playing indie games is that I like to consume a lot of games. Consuming games, you get to see all the sort of new stuff that's out there, things that people are thinking of, you see trends that are that are evolving, and those trends you can see and you can track a lot better on the scope and scale of indie games and indie releases than you can on AAA and Quad A, which are games that are 3 to 5 to 7 years of development time. So I hope that your crystal ball was good when you started zeroing in on what the main feature for your game was going to be, because it's not launching for another 5 years. So I think that's actually also really, really interesting, and I highly recommend folks get into the indie space, at least as a consumer.
Yeah, people associate that game company with Journey, for example, right? But they don't remember they started with Flow,
yes,
right? which was like a game about like
A
bacteria.
little worm bacteria, yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Then it went to
And then it
flower.
went from flow to flower.
Flower. Mhm.
Yeah,
Right?
Yeah.
Where you're actually going around pollinating, and you know, and it's funny, you know, because Sinead, when you were talking, you know, about like, hey, this is good, but it's good for this long, you know, and it started making me think about like moose bushes, you know, like this is a good bite of food. I don't want another one. This, I'm good, right?
Yeah.
And so
Papas.
some games, yeah, need to be hours and hours and hours, and some could be like 30 minutes. You know what I'm saying? And there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely. Gaming tapas. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my goodness,
I
that
dig
needs to be
it.
that's gonna be the
I
name
can't
of
claim that one. That
Yeah.
was just
It's like izakaya games. And the beauty of indie games, we're at the golden era where hip hop was, where everybody's caught on to it, everybody can get access to it. And so you have like a million styles. You have LL Cool J to Daz Effects to Snoop Dogg. You have Biggie
Oh my
Smalls.
God.
You have
You're
it,
right.
we're in that era right now.
Yeah.
And it's
Oh
not
my God.
where today hip hop is the lowest barrier of entry into music and it's commercialized. So rappers today look at it as a job. Back then, they were artists and technicians of words. They were completely calculating everything they said then. Now it's just trying to make a hit for 5 minutes so you can get 100 million streams and run away with your $10 million.
So we're like in the 90s of
We're in the 90s of
music.
game development.
Yeah, like, yeah. That's so weird. That's
indie games
true.
are all over the place. They're all over the place.
Yeah.
And you have places like Cartridge, Itch, Humble Bundle. They just have loads of indie games because now gamers are like, you know what? I thought that Destiny was good. I'm gonna make it with bubble gum, and you don't
Yeah,
kill
it's-
anybody in
but
it.
you know-
And bam, you got a game. And that
It's
game
funny.
really is a real game, and it's based on Destiny.
Oh,
It's
really?
with bubble gum.
I really like that. I really like that idea because in the 90s, man, it was like you couldn't tell anyone what to do with hip hop, right? It was just like we're gonna do some new stuff. We're gonna blend it with jazz. We're gonna blend it with country. We're gonna do all these different things. You know, I think that's perfect.
Mhm.
Sounds like Pixel is not sedated anymore.
Doesn't agree with me.
And he's like, nah, you're wrong. You're wrong.
Triple A
and here's
only for me. I don't care about these things.
Indie games.
And here's the interesting thing too, right?
Mhm.
Because you know one of the things we often see with indie studios when they get really successful is folks start looking for acquisitions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Microsoft picked up a number of studios that would have we might not describe them as indie studios, but independent studios.
Like
Up
Obsidian.
until recently, yeah, absolutely,
ZeniMax,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and but what happens oftentimes is like they get picked up by these bigger companies, so they start moving into more of a triple A space, with it moving from triple I to triple A. But then you still have some folks who break off from that and they start their brand new indie studio. So like the cycle always sort of continues. I think it's going to be really interesting. Like if you talk to a lot of folks, especially in the publishing space, I said 5-10 years ago, they probably would have pushed back on the idea that there was that independent game development could be independently profitable, that it was a space that could own itself and be its own thing, as opposed to being a transition to bigger things,
Bigger studio.
Yeah. And I feel like that myth has been busted now. I feel like there's a burgeoning indie space. I really appreciate so many of the platforms like really supporting the indie space and making room for it, and even having entire like indie showcases where they just talk about like these smaller scoped games. And like I said, once again, as someone who I know I just mentioned a bunch of AAA games that I'm playing, but as someone who usually plays mostly independent games, that's awesome because it really gets my attention as to like what the new stuff that's out there is. Like I probably wouldn't have noticed a short hike if I hadn't seen it like I think it was like an indie showcase for Nintendo or something. Yeah. And that game is awesome, and everyone should play it because it's so
adorable. It's a great game. It's a great game.
Firewatch, Short Hike. What Remains of Edith Finch.
But let's.
That game was so good. What Remains of
Inscription.
Can I just mention really quickly, like because somebody mentioned Annapurna before. And I think like there have been so many companies or a few companies out here where it's just like you hear that name that they're publishing and I instantly like perk up like, what game is this? Because I'm like, it's going to be something that is like going to be unique, or there's a certain feel to it, like Sayonara Wild Hearts.
Yes.
Amazing
game.
especially when you hear Queen Latifah speak.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's like
Hear her voice, you're like, oh, that's Queen Latifah.
yeah, there's so many great things where it's just like so many companies where I'm just like, okay, yeah, let me stand up and like
The artful escape. Like, if I see a game that is Annapurna Publishing, I just buy it.
yeah, it's just like
Because
I'm
I know it will present me an interesting and unique experience that I won't necessarily get with any other type of game. And whether I play that game for 5 minutes, 15 minutes, an hour, however long, or finish it, like I know that I won't regret the time I put into it because there's something that was interesting that was there.
And
I just want to
go ahead, Travis.
Well, I just want to shout out to like who I feel are the real MVPs of all of this, which are, like I said, all these middleware and engine companies. The Unreals, the Unities, the Lumberyards, the Speed Trees, like every one of those companies that you don't really know actually contribute to actually raising like this digital landscape, like, and the great part about it is like, not only do you have everyone embracing games from mobile to VR to AR to to just everything, and us being in this age where it's appreciated and it's experimented on, and those companies who actually enable people to harness their inner creativity. Big shout out to them, because it wouldn't be possible without those technologies nowadays.
Completely agree.
absolutely.
Yeah. I was going to think about where we're at right now. I remember growing up, being Black families had all the PCs in their house, and production software and creation software, like Travis said, was very expensive. My parents rather spend $30 to $40 for a video game than $300 on a graphic program. Not sure if I'm going to like it or not, if I can understand it or not. But since all those tools are free, and I can develop almost on anything these days, almost on anything, that day happens, I'm ready to see people that look like us develop their stories in their games. Because everybody I know has a game idea. They just don't have the know-how to make it. And they tell it in a story, but every now and then I perk up when I hear a really interesting mechanic. Like, well, that's interesting. I've never seen that in a game. Like, yeah, it's never been done in a game. I dream about this. And they don't know how to express themselves, but I have to come in and whisper to people, be their whisperer, like, this is how you would say that to game people. Because you sound like you're telling a story for story people. And that's different.
I want to share a short story with you, and it's important because it sort of framed my existence when I was, I've been making games, maybe for about 7 years at the time. And I'm in a room and I'm at Acclaim Entertainment. And if you guys don't know, Acclaim Entertainment is like where, all your home versions of, all the great Midway games basically got made. And it was because Acclaim pissed off Midway that Midway actually ended up creating a home division.
And I work for Midway Home Entertainment, by the way.
Yeah. And I work for Acclaim. And we're describing a game. And then I'm sitting across from someone in marketing, and the marketing person says, I don't know if that's a good idea. No one's ever done that before, right? And I want to get up and just wrap my hands around his neck, and I say, hey, that's why you do a game. That's not why you don't do a game. And now the great part about that is that the public at large is empowered to actually go make that. And they don't need some stupid person in marketing telling them that they can't. Go make your game. If you're looking at this, if you're looking at this and you're looking at all us professionals talk about this stuff, listen, the best advice we can give you is don't listen to us. Yes. Go do your thing. Go make your game.
Like,
please go make your game.
I give a shout out to Jorge Gutierrez, right? He's the guy that created Maya and the Three on Netflix. He made it all in Blender. You know why he did it in Blender? He made Pixar level animation with Blender. And the reason he did it, he said, because it's free. And so kids that watch my animation can literally go to a computer, download it, and actually do what I did. See how powerful that is?
That's fabulous.
And I'm like, wow, that hit me in my soul. And I tell everybody, watch Mayana 3. It's an amazing story.
Yeah, I didn't realize he made that all. They made that.
He
all
did it in Blender, and he did it for
Wow.
free in Blender. Yeah.
That's incredible. All right, folks. I'm going to close up our discussion here. This has been a fabulous discussion here about indie games. You know, I can talk about this all day. Before I close up, I do want to kind of mention a little bit about what's going on in Ukraine. Obviously, there's a lot going on in the world today with this, and we want to be able to. You know, everyone wants to be able to help. Itch.io has a bundle for Ukraine that they're selling right now for $10. More than 900 games, more than 700 creators for it. Just search itch.io and Ukraine, and it'll come up. And like I said, it's a great way to be able to kind of support the people of Ukraine. All the proceeds are going to charity. So if you are an indie game lover, even if you're not an indie game lover, you just want to help, $10 and all proceeds go to charity. So please take a look at that. And other than that, I do want to give a shout out to Digital Click. They do all the creative for each and every one of our shows. If you like what we're doing here and you want to learn more about techn00bians, please hit up our website, techn00bians.com. That's techn00bians.com. Please follow us on our socials. And if you like our vibe and want to learn more about game development and everything geek, please like and subscribe our channel here on YouTube, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other channels that you're watching us on. And make sure you share us. Share your favorite episodes for sure. Follow us on our socials. You can search the Geekish Network on all major platforms. And if you want to know what else geek we're talking about, Nerdtastic is coming back tomorrow, Sunday night at 7 p.m. Pacific. And then you can also catch up on other shows, Pod Squadron and Geek Beast, coming to you every night next week. That's it for now, everyone. Thank you all for watching and see you all next week.